Students, in this session we will discuss about distributed transactions. So in the previous video we were discussing about the basics of distributed databases, the categories of distributed databases, the basic properties of distributed database systems. Now one of the major topics related to the distributed databases is distributed transactions. So what is a transaction actually? Transaction means the execution of a sequence of database operations to perform some specific operation that deals with the updation or retrieval of data from or to the databases. Now in the distributed architecture, the databases are actually distributed among different sites. So the updations of the data and finishing the transaction in a commit manner or in an abort format, whether it will be committed properly or whether the transaction will be completed in a normal way or there will be some issues in between, and whether we can have a recovery from these transactions. So all these are related to the distributed transaction process. So now the transaction, when we deals with the transaction on a distributed database, the transaction will always access the data that are present in various sites. So that is our basic architecture. So when we are getting in connection with different sites, always we need to have a system capability so that we can access the data from different sites and coordinate these data from different sites and complete the transaction in a proper way to maintain the basic properties of database transactions. Now when we deal with these distributed transactions, we need to consider about two major components of the distributed transaction. One is the transaction manager and second one is the transaction coordinator. So listen to these portions very carefully, because based on these concepts only we will be discussing about the other protocols used for maintaining the concurrency and other related issues of distributed transactions. So the transaction manager and transaction coordinator, these two are the modules that are present in all the sites of a distributed database architecture. So every site will be having a transaction manager, which we are going to mention here as TM, and every site should have a transaction coordinator, which we are going to mention here as TC, a transaction manager and a transaction coordinator. So every site will be having these two software components available. Now initially we will look into the responsibilities of these two components present in each of the sites. So these two components are present in a single site S1, for example. So similarly, so S1 we will call it as transaction manager 1, transaction coordinator 1. Similarly for site 2 we will be having TM2 and TC2, that is transaction manager 2 and transaction coordinator 2. Similarly for all the sites. Now the responsibilities of transaction manager are, first one is he or the module should maintain a log for the purpose of recovery. So the transaction manager is a module that maintains a log. As you know, database log is the place where it maintains all the history of database transaction related operations. So what all things happen during the transaction operations, all these are written or maintained in the database log. It is required for a later failure and the recovery from the failure. We are going to look into the database log, and according to the latest content of log, the recovery from that failure will be initiated. So the maintenance of a log is actually the duty of a transaction manager that is present in all the sites of a distributed database architecture. Now the second responsibility of transaction manager is to participate in coordinating the concurrent execution of the transactions executing at that site. So the transaction manager will coordinate all the transactions that are executed at this particular site. Coordination of all the transactions that are executed at site S1 will be done by transaction manager 1. So two responsibilities of transaction manager: maintenance of a log and the execution of the transaction that are executing at that particular site. Now let us look at the responsibilities of a transaction coordinator which is present in all the sites. First one is, it is responsible for starting the execution of transaction. So if this site is initiating a transaction, that will be initiated at transaction coordinator. So starting the execution of transactions that originate at the site. So site 1, if site 1 wishes to do one transaction, it will be initiated by transaction coordinator of that particular site. Now after that, distributing the sub transactions to different sites. So if that transaction is again having sub operations or sub transactions, these are distributed to several other sites. That distribution is done by transaction coordinator of that particular site. Then similarly, the transaction coordinator is responsible for the termination of the transaction that originates at this particular site, and the transaction may be committed or it may be aborted. That assurance whether the data present in this transaction that belongs to various sites, all these are committed or aborted, that final termination, that decision will be made by the transaction coordinator of the site from where the transaction was initiated. So two major components of distributed transaction in distributed database architecture: the transaction manager and transaction coordinator, and we have seen the responsibilities of transaction manager and transaction coordinator. So this is the same diagram. So you can see this is a site 1 which is called as computer 1 here. There is a transaction coordinator and there is a transaction manager. In computer N also, so here computer 2, then computer 3, computer 4, then up to computer N. Then site N also consists of transaction coordinator and transaction manager. Then transaction coordinator, what he will be doing? He will be initiating the transaction, dividing that into different sub transactions, communicate with other sites. It is communicating with the transaction manager of other sites. That is the major thing. The transaction coordinator of one site will be communicating with the transaction manager of other site. Similarly, the transaction coordinator of this will be communicating with the transaction manager of other site. So the same thing will be repeated for various transaction initiation, then dividing into sub transaction, then the final decision on whether the transaction will be committed or aborted. So it will be in communication between the transaction coordinator and transaction manager of various sites, and in opposite to different sites, the transaction coordinator of one site will be communicating with transaction manager of other site. But normally transaction coordinator of transaction manager of same site will be communicating in a very less number of times, because most of the time the data requirements are from other sites, so it will be communicating with the transaction manager of other sites. So this is the transaction system basic architecture. Based on this architecture only, all the activities related to the transaction or distributed transaction will be occurring. Now the various system failure modes of distributed transactions. So we are starting with the failures, and failure, how we can resolve these failures, and how we can perform the transaction in a better way by using the distributed or various mechanisms applied to the distributed transaction operations. So besides to the normal failures of a normal database system, we are having some other failures also possible with the distributed databases. First point is failure of a site will be a problem, one of the major problem. If one of the site failed, it will affect the result of the entire transaction. That depends on that particular site. We cannot complete the transaction if a particular site fails. So we should have some provision for recovering from that failure. Now the second failure may be due to the loss of messages in between. So as you know, in distributed architecture, the different sites are connected to through the high-speed network, and if any, because of any reason, if some messages are not reaching at a particular site, so that will be a problem. Like if a transaction coordinator distributes the sub transaction into some other site, that message is not received at the second site, that will be a problem. It is because of some loss of messages in between. So normally these loss of messages will be handled by the TCP protocols associated with the network. So TCP will be managing or controlling the transfer or the assurance of the message delivery to the destination site. Now similarly, another problem failure chances are due to the failure of a communication link. The failure of a communication link, maybe any particular link to a site may be lost. So that is also handled by the network protocols by routing the messages via alternative links. So if one particular link, through this link it cannot reach a particular site, it will reroute the message by using an alternative link through which it can access or communicate with some other site. So it will be handled by its relevant network protocols. Then similarly, another failure mode is because of network partition. So what is this network partition? Network partition means some sites are part of a network, part of this network, and some other sites are grouped into a network in some other area. Similarly, some other sites are also. So we are having a large number of sites which are situated in different locations. But what we are doing is, it is a total entire network, all these are connected, but we will partition this network again. We will partition this as one area, this as another area, and this as another area. Now every partition will be having its own network, and these different networks are connected between these partitions by using link. But when we partition this, that area will be acting as a single network. So we'll be having different partitions of the same network, which is possible. Now the problem is, if a network is partitioned, if there is any lacking of connection between these network of partitions, So for example, if this link fails, there will be some problems where the transaction participating sites are from these two partitions. If this link failure will affect the entire failure of the transaction. So if that single link failures, alternative routing is difficult here, because normally partitions are connected through a single link only. If that fails, the entire network will be, communication will be lost, and maybe a chance of permanent failure to the entire database operations. Now, network partitioning and site failures are generally indistinguishable. Some situation this network partitioning, these are group of sites, but if any failure to this, any of these site can be considered as altogether the partition is under failure. It is similar to say failure of a single site also. It can also be. So sometimes these two are related during the recovery from failure, that we will see later. Now we will see the commit protocols which are used in the distributed transaction. So commit protocols are used, so it is a very major topic, important topic for the understanding of the communication between the sites during the distributed transaction processing. So commit protocols are used to ensure atomicity of global transactions. So atomicity means what? So in normal database system also we are using commit protocols, simple commit protocols to means the basic, to maintain the basic properties of atomicity. Atomicity means the transaction must begin, execute and commit in a single stretch. We cannot start from a middle point of the transaction operation. So if it starts, it should complete with either commit or abort. We cannot complete some portion and later we continue from that point. That will never be permitted in a transaction operation. So that property is called as atomicity, which is the first property of acid properties of transaction. Atomicity, major property of transaction. So this is applicable for the distributed transaction also. So a transaction executes at multiple sites must either be committed. So when we are using the data present in different sites for the execution of a single transaction, the transaction or the portion of transaction may either commit on some sites and may abort on some other sites. So that is a problem with the distributed architecture. Now we cannot commit the entire transaction if some of them are aborted. If at least one is aborted, the entire transaction must be aborted. But we can commit the entire transaction only when all the sites are committed, the sub transactions allotted to that particular transaction. So it is not acceptable to have a transaction committed at one site and aborted at another. It would violate atomicity and that cannot be permitted. So the definition is same as in the normal database system, but now the situation is we are using a distributed architecture for applying this atomicity property. So for that we are using the various commit protocols. So commit protocols are used for ensuring the atomicity of transactions. So there are two commit protocols which are commonly available. First one is called as the two-phase commit protocol, which is usually called as 2PC protocol, which are very widely used and most commonly used one. And the second one is three-phase commit protocol. The implementation is little complicated and it is more expensive also. So it is very rarely used. So normally practical usage is difficult for three-phase commit protocol. it is actually implemented for reducing or avoiding some of the drawbacks of two-phase commit protocol, but because of the complexity of this protocol, it is not very practically used. So most commonly used one is two-phase commit protocol only. So now we will look in detail on the two-phase commit protocol for the maintenance of atomicity in distributed transaction. So here in this commit protocol, we take the assumption of a fail-stop model architecture. Fail-stop model means the failed site simply stop working. If a site failed, it will stop working and it will not cause any other harm. So if one site, if any failure, just stop that's all, without affecting any other portion of the same transaction on the same site, or that depends on some other site also. And it should not send any incorrect messages to other site also. Now execution of the protocol is initiated by the coordinator. So we are having the transaction coordinator and transaction manager on each site that you have already seen. Now the working of this commit protocol will be initiated by the coordinator, transaction coordinator. So when it will be happening? It will be happening after the last step of the transaction has been reached. So when one transaction reaches its last stage, the transaction coordinator will initiate the execution of two-phase commit protocol. So when a transaction reaches its final stage, now the protocol involves all the sites in which the transaction is being executed. Maybe 3 or 4 sites will be a part of a particular transaction. So this protocol will be taking the involvement of all those sites which are participating in the current transaction. Now for the explanation of this two-phase commit protocol, we are considering the transaction T and assume that it is being initiated at site SI and the transaction coordinator is CI. So we are using 3 notations: T for the transaction, S for the site, SI for the site, and CI for the coordinator of that site. Now the phase 1. So as you know, two-phase commit protocol consists of 2 phases. So first phase, which is called as obtaining a decision. So first of all, we need to obtain a decision. That means the coordinator should take a decision whether the transaction should be committed or aborted. The decision must be made during the first phase. Applying that decision will be part of the second phase. So what are the procedures to be followed for obtaining a decision in the phase 1? So we will look into the different steps for obtaining that decision. So first of all, the transaction coordinator of the transaction where the transaction was initiated will ask all the participants to prepare to commit transaction TI. So TI is the transaction that is being initiated, and before reaching or after reaching the last statement of the transaction, the coordinator will ask all the participants to prepare to commit transaction TI. That means for that, what it is doing is the transaction coordinator adds the records prepare T. So the message prepare space T to the log. So the transaction coordinator will add a statement prepare T to the same site log and forces log to stable storage. So the coordinator, for doing this operation, the coordinator will form a message prepare T, and this message is stored in its own log and into the stable storage of the coordinator site. It is actually for any recovery. If later any failure happens, by looking into the log we can identify the problem when it was failed, and accordingly we can act. Now later, after adding that into the stable storage, it will send the prepare T message to all the sites where the transaction T is currently being executed. So the coordinator will make a message prepare T, store it locally in the coordinate in the stable storage or in the log, then send the message also to all the sites where the transaction T is currently under execution. So first part is over. So these are part of phase 1. Phase 1 still remains some more steps. Upon receiving message, so several sites will be receiving the message prepare T. Upon receiving this message, the transaction manager at those sites, so whatever message the transaction coordinator sends to other sites, those sites the transaction manager will receive those messages. It will receive that, and the site will determine if it can commit the transaction. After getting the message prepare T, the different sites that is participating in this transaction will be determining whether the transaction can be committed or whether it cannot be committed now. That will be determined by the other sites and by the transaction manager of other sites. So in that procedure, the different steps to be followed is, if not, that means if it cannot be committed, that site will add a record no T. No T indicates it cannot be committed. Now it is not ready to commit. That is the meaning of that. It will add a record no T to the log of that site, and it will send a message about T message to the coordinator. It will send a message back to the coordinator saying that about T. That means it is not ready to commit. So it will send a negative message like about T to the transaction coordinator. Similarly, all other sites will do that. If it is not ready, it will store no T to the local log, and it is sending the message about T to the coordinator from where it was initiated. Now, if the transaction can be committed, what can be done? It will add a record ready T to the log. So if it is not ready, no T. If it is ready, it will add a record ready space T to that site log, and it will force all records for T to stable storage. It will force all records for T. So whatever data are part of T on that transaction, all the data will be moved into the stable storage, because now it is ready to commit. All the transactions that is part of that site are correct. So all the records of that transaction is moved into its own stable storage. And it will also send a ready T message back to the coordinator where the transaction was initiated. So two-stage prepare T message by the coordinator where the transaction was initiated. First of all, it will store in log and stable storage, then send the message prepare to all the participating sites. Then upon receiving on different sites, two options, the transaction manager will do that. If it is not ready to commit, it will store a no T in log and send an about T message back to the coordinator. Now if it is ready to commit, it will store a ready T into the log, and also all the records related to the transaction T to the stable storage. Then it will send a ready T message back to the coordinator. So the coordinator may expect any of these two messages, either about T or ready T. Any of these two messages will be received at the transaction coordinator from each site. So that is the phase 1. Now look into the phase 2. So up to now, whatever details are receiving at the transaction coordinator will decide the final thing, that is obtaining a decision. This decision will be based on those inputs received from the different sites. So based on that, it will be obtaining the decision. Now in the phase 2, the transaction T can be, that is the second phase is called as recording the decision. So final recording, so obtaining the information, then finally record the decision. What is my final decision by the coordinator? That will be happening during the second phase. So now T can be committed. T can be committed when the transaction coordinator receives a ready T message from all the participating sites. That is some important thing. Assume that 4 sites are participating, 3 sites are sending ready T, and 1 site is sending abort T. That cannot be committed. Now if it receives a ready T message from all the participating sites, it can be committed. The transaction can be committed. If it is not, the T must be aborted. So this is the decision made based on the responses from the various sites that are participating in the transaction. Now upon receiving that, the coordinator adds a decision record, either commit T or abort T, depending on this, to the log and forces the record into stable storage. Accordingly, it will add the data into the stable storage. After this, the fate of the transaction is determined, whether it is failure or success. So now the coordinator will be adding a decision, either commit T or add T, and it is stored locally into the stable storage. Then in the next stage, the coordinator sends a message to each participant informing it of the decision, whether it is commit or abort. Then only the participants can take appropriate action locally, means it can do the final commit or abort locally on each site. Understand? So the coordinator first, before completing the transaction, send a message prepare T to all the site. Then site will see that. Now if it is not ready, it will send abort T. If it is ready to commit, it will send ready T. Now if from all the sites, if the coordinator receives ready T message, it can commit. It will store the commit locally. Then it will send the message commit to all the site. Then the local site can decide on the final commit. Locally, for all the site, it can do commit. So the decision, after making the decision by the coordinator, then only the local sites that are participating in the transaction can do the final commit, only after the approval of the transaction coordinator. So this is the different phases, phase 1 and phase 2 of two-phase commit protocol of distributed transaction. Now we will see about the handling of failures in two-phase commit protocol. So first of all, if there is a site failure, how it will be handling the failure? If one site is under failure, what can be done? So normally we need to look into the log, what is the current status. Accordingly we can do the recovery from the failure. So when site SK recovers, so if one site was under failure and there is a failure that occurred, then when that site recovers, so how we can recover from that? It examines its log to determine the fate of the transaction. It will look into the log of that particular site. Now if the log contains a committee record, what is the meaning of that? If the log of that site contains a committee message, means automatically we can understand that it was actually a message sent by the coordinator. Now that means the site can commit the transaction, but before commit it will redo the transaction and commit. Now if the log contains an abortee record, we can understand that was the transaction coordinator who sent abort T. Then after that only the system SK was gone under failure. It will do an undo operation. So whatever operations the transaction was executed on that particular site will be gone for undo operation. So all that will be undone. Now if the log contains a ready T message, the meaning is it receives prepare T from the coordinator and it prepared ready T also, but before sending that ready T back to the coordinator, maybe it might have sent it, but the next message was not received. The site it must consult the coordinator to determine the fate of the T. When it consult with the coordinator, if the coordinator say it was committed, it will do redo operation. The same thing here. Similarly, the coordinator say that it was aborted, it should go for the undo operation of transaction T. Now if the log contains no control records concerning T, if there is no information about the transaction T, so what is the meaning of that? The site was failed before responding to the prepare T message itself. So that site was not at all part of that transaction now, because before receiving the prepare T message, the initial message itself, the site was under failure. So since the two-phase commit protocol, the failure of the site precludes the sending of such a response, the transaction coordinator must abort T and SK must execute undo transaction. So now it is assuming that it was under, because that site is also part of transaction and that is not being performed. So whatever be the situation, it should go for an undo operation, and accordingly the ended transaction might have aborted. So it was the handling of failure due to the site failure, and the site, when the site recovers, what are the different references being made on the different logs and the corresponding action being taken as it is required. Now the second failure is if the coordinator site fails. If the coordinator site, the transaction coordinator fails where the transaction was initiated. Now if the coordinator fails while the commit protocol for T is executing, then the decision will be made by the participating sites whether the T can be committed or aborted. Now the first point is if an active site from transaction coordinator is under failure. Now if an active site contains a committee record, if any of the site that consists of a committee record, then it is the assurance that the transaction was committed. Before doing the final settlement by all the sites, the transaction coordinator might have gone under failure. So now the participating sites can decide that T can be committed. Now if any of the site consists of an abort T message, the meaning is the coordinator have already given the abort message to the individual site, and accordingly that site can decide the transaction was aborted. It can also abort. Now if some participating site does not contain a ready T message in its log, then the failed coordinator cannot have decided to commit. So if some of the site does not consist of a ready T message, if ready T is not there, means it might have not completed its task. So that meaning is automatically the coordinator does not have decided to commit the transaction, so the transaction must also be aborted. Now if none of the above cases holds, then all active sites must have a ready T record, but no additional control records available such as abort or come out information. That means all the sites consist of ready T. Now in this case it should wait for the recovery of the coordinator site to get the decision, because now only the coordinator can say whether the status of the transaction can be committed or aborted. What is the situation if all the sites consist of a ready T message, because all those sites are completed, but the final decision must be made by the transaction coordinator. So without that it cannot complete the transaction. So it must wait for the recovery of the transaction coordinator site. Now there is a problem that is being occurred which is called as a blocking problem. That is the different active sites. So the fourth stage, the different sites are active and they need to wait for a long time for the failed coordinator to recover. See here, we don't know when this coordinator will be recovered, but all the sites with ready-team messages are waiting for a long time until the coordinator gets recovered. So that problem is actually called as blocking problem, which is a major problem related to the distributed transaction where the coordinator site or the transaction coordinator site is under failure. Now another failure is due to the network partition. If one of the partition fails, what happens? Now if the coordinator and all its participants remain in one partition, that is not at all an issue. If the coordinator and participant are in one partition of the network, the failure has no effect on the commit protocol, because the network partition, that link fails, then also no issue. The coordinator and participants are in the same partition and they are being connected. There is no issue. Now, but the second thing is, if the coordinator and its participants belongs to several partitions, coordinator is in one partition and participants are in some other partitions, they are separated. Now the sites that are not in the partition containing the coordinator think that the coordinator has failed, because link is failed, but the other sites will think that the coordinator is under failure and execute the protocol which was discussed in the previous session. That is, when the coordinator site fails, the same protocol will be applied here also. Now here the problem is the same thing, waiting, that is the site need to wait for the recovery of the coordinator, and if the link fails, that network partition link must be retained in order to continue on the success of this particular transaction. Now the coordinator and sites are in the same partition as the coordinator think that the sites in the other partition have failed. Coordinator portion is okay, but the other portion, from the coordinator point of view, what he will think is, he will think that the other portions are under failure, and it will follow the normal site failure commit protocol situation. But this situation, we may have a lot of failures because several sites are in different partitions. So in order to have coordination between these sites belongs to different partitions, it is difficult to follow. So maybe a lot of failures may occur in this situation where the different sites are placed in different partitions of the entire network partition. Now recovery and concurrency control. So now recovery and concurrency control in general, we will see how these two can be implemented in the two-phase commit protocol. So in doubt transactions, we will consider a set of transactions which can be called as in doubt transactions. That are those, they have a ready-to message, but they are neither being committed or not being aborted. That is not those log records are not available. So we are calling it as in doubt transaction. Means we don't know whether it was committed by the transaction coordinator, whether it was aborted by the transaction coordinator. That is why it is called as in doubt transactions. So here in this situation, the recovering site must determine the commit abort status of such transaction by contacting other sites. So here the recovering site must determine the commit abort status of such transaction by contacting other sites. So when the transaction coordinator recovers, it should communicate with other sites to decide the status of. So again, it need to communicate with all the participating sites. So that situation, The problem is it will get some responses, but it will slow down the entire operation, and the recovery will take more time in this particular situation. Now, in order to make the recovery process easier, the algorithms used for recovery will, in order to maintain concurrency control, the same data item is not being accessed by different transactions at the same time. It will add some additional information to the messages that are sent to the coordinator site. So instead of ready T message, which was usually sent back to the coordinator, each site will send ready T, L. Ready T transaction is ready. Also, it will send the list of logs held by that particular transaction when the log is written. Now, this situation we are considering only write logs. We are not considering read logs. Now, in the in-out transaction which we were discussing, all the logs noted in the ready TL log record are reacquired. So, when in-out transaction, all the sites consist of ready T statement. When it is being recovered, the coordinator is being recovered, all the logs in the log record are reacquired, and accordingly it will act to decide on whether it can be committed or aborted. So after log reacquisition, transaction processing can resume. The commit or rollback in in-out transactions is performed concurrently with the execution of new transactions in the transaction coordinator and with the support of the different sites in those transactions. Now the second type of commit protocol, which is called as three-phase commit protocol, as I was mentioning before, the very rarely used protocol because of the complexity of implementation, but it is used for having some solution to the drawback of two-phase commit protocol. So this protocol, we are taking some assumptions like we are assuming that there is no network partitions available, so we are not at all considering about having a network partition, and also at any point at least one site must be up. So we cannot consider the situation as all the sites are under failure. At least one of the site must be up at any point of time, and also at most k sites, that means maximum k number of sites can fail. There is a chance of having failure. So at least one must be up, and above that any number may be it can fail, may or may not. Maybe participants or coordinator, whichever it may be, they can have a failure also. So we are taking these three assumptions here. So here in phase 1, it is doing exactly as in the two-phase commit protocol. It will obtain the decision similar to two-phase commit protocol phase 1. That means every site is ready to commit if instructed to do so. Now in the phase 2, it is split into two more phases. So two-phase commit protocol phase 2 is divided into two portions in three-phase commit protocol, which is called as phase 2 and phase 3. Now in phase 2, the coordinator makes a decision as in 2PC called pre-commit decision, and records it in multiple sites. Now before getting the final decision or finalizing the decision, it will create a pre-commit decision in the second phase, and it will be recorded in different sites. It will be recorded in at least k number of sites. K number of sites means the different sites which are participating in the current transaction. That means it is not recording in all the sites. At least k number of sites it will be recorded. That is a pre-commit decision. So the decision in between, according to the current status, the coordinator might have decided to commit. So that decision is stored in some of the sites, not in all the sites. Now in the phase 3, what is happening is the coordinator sends commit or abort message to all the participating site. So first of all, obtaining the decision. Second means the commit decision is made recorded in some of the sites, and third, it will send the final decision commit or abort to all the participating sites. So under this three-phase commit protocol, the knowledge of pre-commit decision can be used to commit despite of the coordinator failure. So the advantage of this three-phase commit protocol is we are having an intermediate pre-commit decision that is being recorded and spreaded across some of the sites which are participating in the commit protocol or the transaction. So now if the transaction coordinator also fails, we can look into the pre-commit decision which are stored in different sites. Based on that, the other sites can make a decision on whether the transaction can be committed or aborted. So it will avoid the problem of blocking. That means the other site don't need to wait till the recovery of the transaction coordinator. We can look into the other sites and we can decide on whether the transaction can be committed or aborted. Now the drawbacks are the higher overheads, because doing the additional pre-commit decision to all other sites, again with this number of sites and usage of network and communication transfer between different sites, again one more phase will lead to higher overhead, and also these assumptions that we are making initially, which is not always possible to be satisfied in practice. So that is all about three-phase commit protocol, which are used for the proper execution of a distributed transaction processing. Now we will look into the alternative models of transaction processing. So other than these two-phase and three-phase commit protocols, we are also using some alternative models in the real-time applications for the transaction processing in distributed database systems. So as these transactions are spanning across multiple sites, it is inappropriate for many of the applications to deal with the data and the transaction being communicated by using commit protocols in that manner, which is always not possible. That means, for example, the transaction that crosses an organization, no organization will permit an externally initiated transaction to block local transaction. So some other site, if that is being initiated and that is being communicated by our site, they are not interested in blocking the local transaction. It cannot be blocked. If some other transaction needs some data from this site, they can access that, but they cannot block the local transaction of the organization local system. So what we are doing is we are using an alternative model for having communication between different sites by sending some messages. So we are calling it as persistent messaging system. That is, these systems provides transactional properties to messages. That means the messages are guaranteed to be delivered exactly once. So some informations that are sent to the sites, and with the messages, with that message, the decision on the status of transaction can be completed. So it might be a confusion, but we'll look into an example where one persistent messaging system where we can apply. That means if the destination account does not exist when we are doing some bank transaction, if the destination account does not exist, how it will handle that situation? It will send a message to the source site, like the destination account does not exist. So when the failure message is received from the destination site, or destination site itself does not exist, money must be also, second thing is one message must be sent back, also automatically the money must be deposited back to the source account. So that we already familiar with our banking transaction. They are actually using the persistent message passing system for handling the transaction operation. So some of the communication must be made manually or by sending some messages in between, like an error messages must be sent, and automatically the database updation must also be done. Now the problem, if the source account has been closed, means before getting that money back to our source account, now that situation, the system cannot continue. We need to have the interaction by a human to take care of that particular problem, how the money can be dealt or given back to the person who was actually trying to submit some money to some other account. Now the user code executing transaction processing using 2PC does not have to deal with such failures. So this thing cannot be resolved by these type of issues cannot be resolved by two-phase commit protocols. There we are using the persistent messaging mechanism manually for providing a better distributed transaction operation. Also, along with this persistent messaging, we are also using a concept called as workflows. The workflows provide a general model for transactional processing that involves multiple sites and also human processing for the database transactions. So we need to use multiple sites as well as the human interaction also. So that is again, if we consider banking application and all, when the bank receives a loan application, what are the different procedures to be followed? They will contact external credit checking agencies. That will be done by the sites. It also get approvals of one or more managers. That is, the approval of managers will be done at different sites. Some of them means this checking and all these things will be, sometimes it will be done manually. Okay, so in response to loan application, several activities are happening. Some of them are between the sites, and some of them in between manually is also being done. That is some human processing and some interaction between multiple sites. So workflow exists before the invention of database system itself. So earlier banking system was following this pattern only. Manually from one cabin to second cabin, they are dealing with all the operations, and finally the deposit, credit, debit, all these informations will be done with a proper transaction commit or abort stage. So the persistent messaging forms the underlying infrastructure for the workflow, where we use the human interaction as well as the usage of multiple sites interaction in a distributed environment. So that is all about the distributed transactions. So in this video we were discussing about distributed transactions in detail, the transaction architecture, the components of each sites present in the transaction processing, then the protocols like two-phase commit protocol in detail, and how we can resolve different failures in the two-phase commit protocol. Then we have seen the enhanced version of two-phase commit protocol, which is three-phase commit protocols. Then we have seen some more additional distributed transaction processings for these recovery and all, like the persistent messaging, message passing, as well as the workflows for the distributed transaction operations. So that is all for now. In the next session, in the next video, we will be discussing about concurrency control in distributed database systems. Thank you.